All right, today we are diving into a deal that is so huge, it's literally being called the mother of all deals. We're talking about the free trade agreement between India and the European Union. And in a world where trade partnerships are constantly shifting, this one could seriously reshape about a quarter of the entire global economy. So let's get right into it. So, that nickname, the mother of all deals, that's not just some catchy phrase. It really gives you a hint at the absolutely massive scale and, honestly, the game changing potential of this economic partnership. It's a huge statement, especially in a time when a lot of countries are kind of closing their doors. So, just how big are we talking here? Well, think about this. The economies involved in this deal, when you put them all together, make up nearly a quarter of the entire world's GDP. That is a staggering number. It really puts this agreement in a totally different league. Now, it's pretty easy to get lost in these giant numbers and fancy titles. So let's break it down. Let's get real. What is this agreement actually changing on a practical level? And more importantly, what are the real world consequences for businesses, for workers, and for the economy as a whole? Why should you even care? Okay, so let's pop the hood on this thing and see what's inside. First, we're going to unpack the core mechanics of the deals so we can all understand what's actually changing on the ground. At the very heart of this whole thing is a concept called tariff liberalization. Now, in simple terms, all that means is getting rid of, or at least seriously cutting, the taxes or tariffs that countries put on goods they import. And when you get rid of those taxes, well, products from other countries suddenly get a whole lot cheaper and a lot more competitive. And this right here shows you that fundamental shift perfectly. I mean, think of it like a giant wall. Before the deal, you had these high EU taxes acting as a barrier, making it really tough for Indian goods. And after the deal, boom, that wall comes crumbling down. The tariffs get slashed, and that gives Indian products a huge competitive advantage. And we're not talking about tiny tweaks here. The changes are incredibly specific and just dramatic. Take a look at textiles and apparel. Tariffs as high as 12% are just gone immediately. For leather goods, a 17% tariff vanishes. And hey, this is a two-way street. European cars coming into India saw their tariffs drop from a mind-blowing 110% all the way down to around 10%. I mean, these are transformations, not just adjustments. Let's just visualize that for a second because it's so important. For a massive, labor-intensive industry like apparel, a 12% tax on your products is a major, major barrier. So taking that barrier down to zero, basically overnight, completely changes the entire business equation for thousands and thousands of Indian manufacturers. But here's the thing. Cutting taxes on goods is really just the tip of the iceberg. This agreement is way more comprehensive than that. It covers a whole range of economic activity that's happening just beneath the surface. So this deal also opens up markets for crucial services, like IT and finance. It smooths the path for European investment to flow into India and tries to get regulations in sync to cut down on all that annoying red tape. It even includes commitments on things like sustainable development, which just goes to show you how deep and modern this partnership is really meant to be. Okay, so we know what's in the deal. Now let's connect the dots. What's the expected real-world impact of all of this on India's economy? The economic logic here is pretty straightforward, kind of like a chain reaction. First, you lower the tariffs. That makes Indian exports way more competitive in the huge EU market. So what happens then? Well, Indian companies start increasing production to meet all that new demand. And that increase in production leads directly to, you guessed it, more jobs and overall economic growth. And the potential benefits just ripple out across the whole economy. It's not just about a huge expansion in exports or a nice boost to GDP. A deal like this could attract a whole new wave of foreign investment. It could push Indian manufacturing to make more high-value products, and it might even spark development in smaller cities, creating totally new economic hubs. But out of all of these incredible benefits, if you have to focus on just one, this is it. For a country with India's population and demographics, the potential for massive, large-scale job creation is probably the single most significant outcome of this entire agreement. And we're not just talking about abstract jobs here. They're expected to pop up in very specific areas. In manufacturing, it's those labor-intensive sectors like textiles and leather that are going to get an immediate boost. In services, you're looking at high-skill areas like IT and engineering. And you can't forget about all the supporting roles in logistics, everything from warehousing and port operations to quality testing, all needed to handle this new flood of trade. But of course, an opportunity this big doesn't come without its fair share of challenges. So let's take a look at the road ahead, where the incredible potential of this deal meets the cold, hard reality of actually making it happen. Yeah, to really capitalize on this agreement, India has some serious work to do. It's going to have to meet the EU's really strict environmental and labor standards. Some domestic industries that have been protected by high tariffs for a long time are going to face some tough new competition. And there's an urgent need to upgrade logistics, improve worker skills, and just generally make it easier to do business across the country. Which brings us to our final thought. This agreement provides a really powerful engine for growth, but turning that engine on and keeping it running smoothly, well, that depends entirely on the reforms and the hard work that have to happen next. So the mother of all deals might be signed, but it really seems like the real work is only just beginning.